get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry we're not going on live. Blame me for it because I had an episode on Wednesday where my body told me F you, gave me the middle finger. I got automatically shut down like a badass android. By the time I woke up, I wanted to bang my head on the screen. While he stopped me before I think I was doing it, he called, checked me, said I was doing. I was livid. I was about to go Vegeta mode. But this is what it is. I'm glad we are here. It's not an emergency recording, but we're doing the recording so that we will have this uploaded. Because this subject, this topic, is no simple topic to be discussing on season 1. This show is massive. If you don't have a Netflix account,
consider getting one.
I'm serious. If you don't have a Netflix account, you are missing a whole bus. This franchise is on Netflix. It is the best binge watch anime you can watch on a weekend. If you're off on a weekend, get your popcorn, get your drink, bring your friend, bring your fellow, whatever you want to do. Watch this thing, and I'm telling you, the graphic, the plot, everything, it will have you thinking like, what the? Yo, OMG. Like, seriously? But it's a pop culture. Is great. It's one of the best anime out there so far. But I'm not gonna spoil it to you guys because there was something happened in the last season, but we will talk about it when that season time comes. Now I'm talking about season 1. So let's get it started. Shall we?
Sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is an introduction about JoJo's Bizarre. I want you to understand what we're reading. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Season 1, which we talked about, encompassed both phantom blood and the battle tendency. My partner said, yeah, this is a 2-part thing because the phantom blood is actually the first part. Am I correct? The battle tendency is the second part.
Yes.
It began in the late 19th century England. Excuse me. How did Jonathan Joestar, troubled youth, after his adopted brother, Theo Brando, had to observe the Joestar family fortune? Sorry, I'm trying to sound like a Brit. Transform into a powerful vampire. Oh, no offense. He didn't get a bite on the neck. It's not the typical windmill vampire. It's not typical old school, bang your neck, get that. It's not that type of vampire. It's a whole different type of vampire. This vampire came from a particular I'm just letting you know, guys. When you watch this anime, you be scratching your head like, so you just wear this man to become a vampire? Really? So what happened to all the vampire movie we watching all that? To become a vampire, you had to get that initiation. This is a new gray vampire, a package. Vampire are us. Don't blame me. Using the ancient stone max, Jonathan learned Haman is a sunlight-based martial art and dedicated his life to stopping Dio even a decade later. In the late 1930s, Jonathan's grandson, Joestar, possessed a natural affinity for Haman and found himself embroiled in a new conflict against the Pillar Man, ancient humanoid from immense power who created the stone mat and seek a legendary artifact to achieve ultimate life. Joestar and his ally must master Haman to prevent the Pillar Man from plunging humanity into darkness. Now, let me explain it this way. I watched it. The first part considered with the founding father of the Joestar family being into the crime fighting, demon fighting saga. Joestar was the first start. His brother was adopted. He came from a particular background, which was shady. They have been, how you gonna put this? Joseph is a cool dude. He humble. He wasn't bragger toasted. He kind of happy to have a brother, but he didn't realize his brother was vindictive. That man want him out. He want to take over the guy's life. Well, he was taught that by his father. Steal, lie, and cheat. So that sound like Eddie Guerrero kind of thing, but he ain't that kind of plan. But hey, what? Am I wrong, Wally?
I
You let me
mean,
know.
the Eddie girl is a little bit of a stretch, but okay. but I get the sentiments, though. I get the sentiments. I get the sentiments.
It is what it is, though. So I can't hate and lie about it. So let's talk about the overview. Title JoJo Bizarre Adventure was season 1. Studio David Production. It would air between October 6th, October 6th, 2012, which is about how many years from now? It's about 13 years ago. Just show how old it is. To April 6th of 2013. It had 26 episodes. The manga, well, the book itself, it covered the Phantom episode. Well, see tomorrow, the Phantom part of it, out the Phantom book, episode 1 to 9. Right? But in a way, you call it 2-part, right? I find it weird how it was 2-part, even though the Phantom Blow between the 9 episodes, but it was more like an introduction what caused the saga that we were going through, because when Joestar trying to save his family, whatever, met his wife, got on a boat. The person that he thought he got rid of was on the boat. Save his wife, stay behind to fight the demon, which is Dio. Now, no offense, I don't. Should I do the spoiler alert? What really happened, or let them see for themselves, or would be like this jacked up as well? Let me know, Wally. Should I snitch?
At this point, I mean, go right ahead. Just don't over graphiциze it, just don't over graphiциze.
Yeah, but because this is where these vampire things don't make no sense. I don't know any other vampire movie that does this. But this Dio was so into his vampire mode, so bad. I mean, the Pillar Men didn't surpass him. The fact that they didn't sense him or sense his ability is alarming. Let's get that one straight. They didn't know that someone got created by their masks and seemed to surpass their ability in maybe many weird ways and then some. This man got his head chopped off. Right? While fighting against Joseph. To survive, you found a way to chop off Joseph's head and take over his body, which is crazy. So that was the thing about it. I was like, I've watched so many vampire movies. I've not once ever seen a part where a vampire do such a thing to survive. So now he took the body of Joestar, attached himself to it, and locked himself in a coffin, and survived century underwater. Crazy, right? Then some dumb fisherman, you all gotta take dumb fisherman, because when you start fishing stuff from underwater, you get curious. Don't they say curiosity kill the cat?
Pretty much.
This one wasn't curiosity kill the cat. There was curiosity kill the nation. That is what it is. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna front. It's what it is. Even when I was watching the episode, I was like, why do people pick up stuff they have no understanding and instead of like, my sixth sense say drop it. Should have left it there for another who knows how many more centuries. No, somebody got to pick it up from the bottom of the ocean. My question is, how did they get caught in the fishing net? I don't get it. They supposed to be sinking at the bottom, taking the blood from the ocean floor, right? Unless somehow it was
supposed to.
supposed. I don't see how that happened. So I'm just wondering. It's crazy. So believe me, this anime it got me longer. It got me thinking a lot of things. Whatever you know about vampire movies, you watch this anime. Do me a favor. Throw it out the window.
Yeah, this is not your typical.
I'm serious. You don't take my word. Ask Wally. When he watched it, I'm sure he was like,
oh, trust me, the definition of vampire in this one is very off-putting, but it was actually pretty interesting because again, if you watch this anime the way I did, the way that we both did, if you actually pay attention to the moment when when Dino cracked open the book and it was actually explaining certain parts of certain scenarios of as far as certain words or details, this is actually pretty interesting. But it's very
it throw you off because you be breaking your neck. You be like, huh? If you're not a person of details who pay attention to every small detail, then this anime is nothing. It would just go over your head 100 times over. You'll be like, what is this? What is it all about?
yeah, because funny enough, there was like when they got to when Dino cracked open the book when JoJo left, and I saw the words, and I was like, wait a minute. There was words to each of the different like points of how it was attacking the brain, how the mask was attacking the brain, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's the last one? I'm like, they didn't show the last one. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Because the way I was looking, I'm like, wait a minute, they're saying this word, this word, this word. I'm like, how do you know that the mask attacks the brain this way? When you haven't even put it on your damn self. Let alone to activate it, of course, take some blood. So you can tell that it was one thing. I mean, it goes to show you right there. Them things on them that mask that tells you everything.
And believe me, there was one of the reasons why this anime became very, very interesting. The guy who created the thing did an excellent job with storytelling. Storytelling will have you be like, hold up. You for real? Just what it is? It's a plot you're playing? What's going on? Set in 1880s England. Not a long time ago. Imagine being doing the 1880 England and you've been underwater for how long? Before they found your crazy vampire behind?
Yeah.
England. This part followed Jonathan Joestar, the noble and honorable young man whose life is turned upside down when his adopted brother, Tio Brando, used a storm to become a vampire. Jonathan had to learn a mantra called Harmon, aka Ripple, a sunlight-based energy that can destroy a vampire. Like, hold up. Let's pause on that one. Were there any martial art for in any of the vampire movies? Some base.
Say it again. You said, was there any other martial arts?
If any of the vampire movies that we have watched beside this, were there any sunlight-based martial art that people were using?
Of course not.
That's why I said let that part sink in. Sunlight-based. Dude, all we knew was a wooden stake,
silver bullets,
water. No. Silver bullet for werewolf.
I forgot. Anyways.
Let me say it again. A wooden stake, It cannot be skinny. It gotta be thick. See my hand? It could be this thick or thicker.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking Blade. You know the steel fight.
He had a silver one, but he had it dipped into holy water.
Apparently, I'm still questioning how the hell you get holy water. Okay.
I was heavily dipped, soaked in holy water. That's another part. And you need torch and garlic, so to speak. That's what the deal. To kill vampire. To kill werewolf was actually a silver bullet. Or you cut off their head.
Yeah.
And they both had the same weakness. They cannot be outside the sun, so to speak. Well, this anime, there's a particular artifact that can change all that for them.
Supposedly.
Anyway, a sunlight-based energy that can destroy a vampire. He must stop Gil to save his family and the world. In other words, blame his papa for adopting the wrong boy.
AKA being very naive.
Mm-hmm. Naive don't get you nowhere, my friends. Trust me when I say that. It does not. Let's go on to the next slide. Main character is Jonathan Joestar, aka JoJo. Noble Kindheart, the first JoJo of the series. You know that there's so many JoJo, but it's based on their naming conventions. There was no Mojo, it was only JoJo.
Oh my god.
Mojo. Oh, Mojo Jojo. Yeah. Power. Oh, what kind of stupid. When I first saw JoJo be like, I was thinking Mojo Jojo. I was like, let me stop. Hey, you can't blame me, Wally, okay? Don't you were thinking the same that goddamn thing, so don't even play yourself.
No. Not
don't lie.
You're lying on me right now. I was not thinking no Mojo Jojo.
It's the guy who want to criticize me. I don't want to talk about no female anime, but yet I'm sure he was watching Powerpuff Girl. And
of course I watched it before.
Okay then.
So I wasn't thinking about Mojo
Jojo. Okay. I'll let that slide. I'm sure he was, ladies and gentlemen. Don't pay him no mind.
You had no choice. I wasn't thinking about it. That's your fault.
Dio Brandon, the ruthless, charismatic antagonist, became a vampire. I don't know why he did that. Amina Petterton, that's Jonathan love interest and the matriarch of the family, who produced all the future JoJo. Will Zeppelin, the Italian gentleman who teach Jonathan Hamon. He was a good fighter. I ain't gonna lie. He was a good fighter. For sure. But I recall he did have a son who followed suit his legacy. And there was Robert E. O. Speedwagon. He was a street thug. Let me explain how transformative this really is. Robert E. O. Speedwagon. This name is synonymous to the Speedwagon Foundation. This is a street thug that turned to a loyal ally that turned into a multi-billionaire that turned and created a philanthropist that turned he created a foundation only catered to one thing only, to protect the Joestar family. This is generational wealth, 101. If you watch this anime, learn from him how to create generational wealth. Am I lying, Wally?
I mean, I ain't saying you was.
Dude was doing a lot of work behind the scene. It's almost like a replica of the Knight Foundation. Remember Knight Rider?
Yeah, pretty much.
In that kind of way. They guy were doing that and then some on a deeper level. They were getting boats. They were getting some of the stuff they were getting in the anime. You're like, how far the future did Green Wagon Foundation really is? Who do they work with? Who do they know? Like, yeah, but that's how it is. Let's go to the next slide because, like I said, some of the names you got to pay attention to.
Shoot, hold up. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. But I was gonna make some comments on this one, but yeah,
Go ahead, make your comment.
Okay, so I see what we get. Okay, so let me come here because one thing I do want to talk about towards some of the episodes I thought that were really important to talk about is this key moment, right? When JoJo defines what it means to be a gentleman. I think this is probably one of the most respectable thing that he said, right? And this is actually a more profound thing. So let me put this down, right? So this was a moment where he was defending off the bullies that was bothering his little love interest, Irina, right? So JoJo tells Irina what it means to be a gentleman, right? In this case, like, Irina asked JoJo if he was okay. JoJo said, "Just leave me alone. I'll be fine. I didn't take a beating just now for your sake. So whatever you're thinking, stop it." I mean, to most of you ladies, you would think that's not no gentleman. Just keep on listening what he's saying, because this is going to be the funny part. Irina gasped. And then JoJo goes on by saying, "All I wanted is to conduct myself as a gentleman. I spotted a damsel in distress. A true gentleman has no fear. He'll fight for those who can't. Even knowing it's a fight he has no chance of winning, he enters the fray. Someday I'll have that strength to win." Now, in most cases, when you listen to that, most of you guys, if we were to compare this in today's time frame, you'll say he was a simp, he was a bloody wanker, and everything else of that nature. But here's the thing, though. I wouldn't say JoJo was a simp for this. And let me tell you why. Let's think about this. We would call men that do the same thing, the white knight, the, Captain Saberhose. But notice one thing that he said. I wasn't doing this for your acknowledgement or anything else. But let's be honest. When you think about a Captain Saberhose, when you think about your white knights, they're always there in a sense of what? Of a reward. JoJo was not looking for one. JoJo saw what was just. And he said, "Hey, look here. You didn't." He wanted to be the image of what it means to be a gentleman, and seeing other men lower that value or the image of such, that put a boil to him, and he wanted to make sure that it was stand tall. Ergo, when you think about that, when you compare that time frame, and you compare this now, it's the same way, right? You see other men doing some wrong shit, and you check them, and you tell them, hey, slow that ish down. What the hell you out here doing? Because you effing the image of man. Because you over here doing what you're doing. And as what they all say, don't they always say men punch up, they don't punch down? But notice in this video, you'll see two men punching down by having a girl's little dolly and stuff and playing around. They were punching down in this position. But you're a man, you're supposed to be punching up. Go deal with someone your size. So in this ideal, right, where Jonathan was trying to, put his spin on what a gentleman is, honestly, and this is somewhat an image that has been destroyed, honestly. Because now when you think about that from what it was back then to what it is now, you would think to yourself, this is the way. This is the understanding. This is the understanding that most men know. But in today's world, most people say that, Jonathan, you lost your mind. I ain't doing ish. I ain't protecting none. Because for what? And don't get me wrong, I understand that.
Let me add to that. You got to look at the other side of the equation. To do such a thing, the other side of the equation had to be something else, whereby the person had to fit that equation. Jonathan and Joestar were doing that for women of that era that were completely different from today's era. So the equation in today's time is unbalanced. Meaning you can apply that type of philosophy onto something whereby today's standard is it's not gonna work.
I mean, hey, technically, based upon Jonathan's mindset, it would still be pushed in this generational time. And remember, notice what he said. Notice what he said. He says, seeing a damsel in distress. Now, granted, keyword, damsel in distress. I will say, when you think about damsel in distress, this is a woman that cannot defend herself, period. But let's be honest. Let's be real. Some of y'all women be putting hands on men. So, as they say, equal less for all, equal rights for all. Yeah. I'm sorry to tell you, but yeah, keep your hands to yourself, goddamn. Keep your hands to yourself.
So I hear what you're saying, but let me be real though. Jonathan philosophy is an old school fundamental philosophy that is based on a standard that dated right back in the English mindset of doing things. England sense of gentleman is completely different from the American sense of gentleman. You have to call the gentleman handshake, gentleman fight. Gentleman how to do things. It's like saying, don't scoop low. If you call yourself a real man, take it like a man. And we watch a lot of old school movies. When they had these gentlemen fight, what do you think that's going on? They take out the shirt, take out their jacket, they have their pants on, they do the fisticuffs. Win or lose, you shake your hand, respect that person, you move on, right? That was based deep in the cultural root in England, so to speak. You can't carry that fundamental and come to this soil whereby.
Well, yeah, we all know there's a difference.
There's no foundation.
We all know that. We all know that.
Cheat and still foundation.
We all know that. We all know that. We definitely all know that.
So if you want to be a gentleman, you got to be in England.
Especially nowadays, forget putting hands up. They putting out that Glock, aka Glock tasers.
Oh, with the yachty, they get a machete.
Okay.
Yeah, black card. What you take you this head, man? You want to chop ya? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Oh man, but I'll also throw in this part too, right? Going back to this because like I said, sorry, wrong thing. I went back there. Yeah. But going back, because these were some of the if you look in the private chat real quick, because these were some of the words that they used that I was talking about when they were describing the math. Well, when JoJo was describing the math, because he put on the lower end, because it was the lower parts of the book that they were showing the notes. Mm-hmm. The lower end was pretty much inferior, superior, octuple. I don't know how I said that one. I don't know the name. You're muted.
It's superior, occipital, central, cingulate.
Yeah, and then of course the last one was just like something that you couldn't see because the book was covered at that point based upon the edge of based on the edit of the whole video. But yeah, but pretty much those. I don't know why JoJo was angling those points overall as far as when it came to the introduction of the mask and like how it affects the brain or the dealings of the brain, when there was never a test for you to even solve it. But it was pretty interesting. But I wish they went in a little bit more detail.
But think about how the background story of the anime is based on, right? It is based on many different communities or different folklore. First, you got to deal with the background. This is coming from a family that's based in England, right? Then you're dealing with history concerning the Pillar Man, which is dated back either from Egypt or something beyond that region. So you deal with different type of history and dynamic. This is how the anime started to play itself out in many ways, shape, and form. It is why they come to creating such a story. I think when anime they do a masterful. Let me rephrase that. This is the art or storytelling that it had to be taken very, very serious. Because either you're doing an anime or you're doing a movie or you're doing the story have to make sense. The
Yeah.
plot have to make sense. Character building have to make sense more than anything else. When you're building different characters, a lot of these characters set the foundation for future characters. This is why I'm not a fan of cartoon.
Yet he just brung up Mojo Jojo.
Yeah, although I brought up Mojo Jojo because the name JoJo, and then the first thing came to my mind was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Not a fan of cartoons, but you was able to remember that like it ain't nothing.
Wait, here's the thing: when you have niece and nephew and they watch Powerpuff Girls,
Now he's over here saying
and that
the
name,
nephews.
I mean, Mojo Jojo, that's the, it's like a ringtone that's so annoying.
Oh
I
my
remember in
god.
college. I remember in college. I remember some people like to make fun of certain things, and they were the diss people. You go, you sound like Mojo Jojo. You just sound like you can never get a win. No day of the week. We got to sing you like Mojo Jojo. And it's funny how I'm saying it. A particular content creator was taking shot at a particular person who she go on tour with. You know what I'm referring about. He is the Virgin 3.0 or 4.0 of Jackson. They had a stupid show called The Conversation. And that one volatile woman who like that, she was calling him this kind. We were calling him Mojo Jojo. I was like, why would you use it?
Okay, I'm lost.
It's a podcast called The Conversation. It's on YouTube. You know what I'm talking about. And they had a fallout recently, right?
Okay, I
They're
know
going to
you're
go
talking
their
about.
separate way. And this one particular female, she was calling the eighth often Mojo Jojo. I was like, she's so wrong or Mojo. You gotta look her up on YouTube and see her rant when she was referring to Ace Austin, this Mojo Jojo. I was like,
You
that was
know,
that was an epic sunness. She
okay.
took it and ran with it. So that's why I was laughing when I see JoJo's. That's the first thing came to my mind when I first saw the anime. But you can't hate me. I like comedy, but if you don't know how to think fast, you will not catch on. Damn, it's what it is. So the power system hormone ripple is a building technique that produces energy similar to sunlight. Now here's where I was very confused because a lot of anime when people want to incorporate fundamental philosophy, it was hard to understand. If you're not a fan of karate, kung fu, different type of form of martial arts, the breathing technique, you will never think it has something to do with producing level of energy, right? But somehow they figure out a way to incorporate that in a very unique way that makes you like, you know what? Let me give them that. Yeah, it wasn't weird, but how they broke down the explanation behind it somewhat makes sense to the storyline.
I
And
mean,
I
if
give
you
it that.
really want to think about it like this way. For most of you guys that eventually took some time into watching Dragon Ball, aka Dragon Ball Z,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at Master Roshi, he technically does the same thing.
Bingo. Bingo. So the fact that you're still not either from Dragon Ball Z or call it Dragon Ball, because he started from Dragon Ball first before he went to Dragon Ball Z, and you incorporate the idea and mix it with it, you have to have a science build up on how it makes sense. And they did an excellent job with that. I give them that. The fact again, vampire and the undead, which you gotta have something to fight against a particular undead army. But they wouldn't think about using wooden stick. You want to think about using garlic or the cross or holy water because you know how much water, you know how much gallon of water you got to carry around you all the time, does too. And no disrespect, they were the German army, they had the Nazis, another branch of the Nazi in this anime, fighting against this. So it's funny how they came along to fight, but it's what it is. It required intense breathing and focus. This, like I said, the person who wrote this story did their homework. Because we watch a lot of anime, there's some different martial art utilized there, here and there. Let's go not on a side track. The Avatar. The Legend of the Avatar, right? You had fire bending, water bending, earth, water, and air, right?
Yeah.
So you got fire, you got water, you got earth, and you got air with four type of bending, right? You notice how to utilize the martial art. The person who helped create that understood the fundamental of what martial art being used. There's some fundamental martial art, it's similar to water, but incorporate properly and on. Some form of martial art is similar to earth, it's rigid and solid. Other word, fire with explosives. Air, that's supposed to be almost similar to water, also is volatile but flexible. This is why when you creating a story, you creating some kind of form or art or some kind of web, it had to make sense. The person who did this one did their job, did their home because you had those manga sensei, they will look through your material and it's not making sense. They'll call you out to go back home, work on it. So the guy who did took a huge amount of time to make sure he perfect everything and make sure it makes sense. You gotta take my hat off of it. But they were a good setup. Let's go to the next slide. That's what I have to say on this one. Okay, key plot point. The arrival, which is very controversial, adopted by the Joestar, the aim to obscure Jonathan's place. The anime will, as you continue to watch, it will break down more about the background, Dio background, why he did what he did. That's one thing. The Stone Max. I think this one go a little further, like maybe a season or two, and it has some kind of origin story behind it.
I think it just goes up to the second one because the third one, if I'm not mistaken, they had a different power system at the third one.
Yeah, it did. Dio became a vampire, gained superhuman ability. Jonathan trained with the Peli, learned Hamon. Fight in the Wind Night Lodge. Jonathan faced undead means. Final duel, Jonathan versus Dio aboard a burning ship. Does nothing like the Titanic to you? Hello. Jonathan died. He died stopping Dio also. Wifey thought he stayed behind the top Dio and they died together. Not knowing that the headless Dio took over her hubby body. Was merged his vampire blood with the Jonathan bloodline. Which is uniquely crazy. So it created a unique bond whereby a certain type of power system came in place. Which is called a stand. But during the first 9 episodes, there was no stand.
Right.
It's the vampire versus the disciple of the Haman. But because of what Dio did, he took his superhuman ability, merged with a particular bloodline, which harbored Haman, to create something very, very unique.
The problem is, though, it wasn't just unique to him, though. It was unique to a lot of people.
A lot of people, but based on the storyline, a lot of people who were affected by either part of the Jonathan bloodline or you got affected by Theo himself. But they were giving people powers at one point until there's another artifact that does this similar thing that was also being introduced. That'll be another time we'll talk about that.
Oh yeah, no, sure.
You got something to say before we go to the next slide?
No, I think we good right here. I think we locked this one in.
For that theme, honor versus ambition, legacy versus bloodline, track it, hear it. I ain't called track it, beyond track. Good versus evil. What do you think about this, Wally? What's your say on this?
Well, as far as good versus evil, it was common sense, you know. JoJo, Dino, that was common sense of good versus evil. Pretty much similar lifestyles, lose their mother. You know, one father was great, the other father was a piece of shit. Just call it for what it is. And you know, it just became what it is. They should have definitely added the theme of being cutting, because Dio was one cutting son of a bitch with so much lives. after the first episode, it literally says jump 7 years in. It's like, wait a minute, now y'all buddy? Oh, is everything good in the hood? Oh my goodness, where did this happen? No, it was always you being.
You're not alone. You are not alone. I was thinking the same thing, like, but they buddy all the time, or you just pretend to be buddy, but he's still looking for his opportunity to get the guy off.
Yep, it was just some slanders. Now, as far as the honor versus ambition, you know, look. Definitely JoJo had honor, and you know, Dino had ambition. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to get everything out of life and you know, get forward in life, right? I mean, granted, you would think, right, to someone that gets a better position in life, granted someone that's actually a better father, a better man, and yet you still out here saying to yourself, I'm gonna screw everybody over. And you wonder why, because your daddy's bloodline is thicking your behind to still do what you want to do, to still do what he's been doing, being a miserable fuck that's just trying to get by. And you had a very comfortable position. You was treated like a son under someone else's household.
Why not just go along with the flow of things? That'll just messing everything up.
Exactly.
Would end up with creating a unique saga of chaos across multiple continents.
Right. Now, as far as tragic heroism, yeah, there was definitely a price paid here. There was definitely a price paid. It was an ugly price.
It's not even an ugly price. It was an effed up price. You have a vampire using your damn body, your bloodline, to create pure, unfiltered havoc, let it down multiple centuries. To the point whereby, I mean, I'm not going to talk about season 5, but season 5 was just epic. Like, really? Did this all come from one bloodline to do all this damage?
Yeah, well. And then after that, well, as far as legacy and bloodline, I mean, they mentioned the legacy. They didn't went that deep into legacy of the Joestar family.
Yeah, but the Joestar started from Johnson Joestar.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a working down process, but as far as just the first season.
The first season was really weird.
Of course it was.
Because the main antagonist was out of the picture for a while. He was in a coffin. But
and that's the thing. It's like the main protagonist should be the main one being the focus.
By the second and third generation were fighting against the Pillar Men. When they took out the Pillar Men, that when the main antagonist said, okay, now my time to shine.
Yeah, because I ain't gonna lie. Because when I first saw JoJo's Adventure, I remember like, okay, I seen all of it. And then it's like, okay, it went to the whole new one. And then it's like, okay, we went to like the Pillar Men thing. And he's fighting the main vamp at the end. I'm like, Wait a minute here.
I'm taking out the
Did that
main
just went
vampire.
to a whole new series? That's why I was like, man, I don't know if this was just one whole. Wait, I was like, wait, this was just one whole series. I'm like, I thought this was two. I'm like, okay.
Until Dio resurfaces again. And you get the
Pretty
joke.
much.
It was a whole different ball. It was almost like saying he didn't want to come out because of the main boss would have taken. I think Dio did not want to come out because he knew the main one would have taken him out.
Pretty much.
But they were being like that through ancient time. He cannot do what he want to do while he's around. Because it's almost like if he would have came out and went around, it could have sent him and put him underneath. Like, remember, the Pillar Man was sunning people in the building. They was sunning people in the building. Legit.
He was sunning people. I thought he was donning people. Okay.
I call it sunning. You call it Donna. It thoughts the same way. But it is what it is.
Yeah, no, because the reason I said don, because he was only motherfucking able to beat down people in the freaking nighttime, anyways.
Very unique.
Yeah, it definitely was a good start. It definitely was a good start. I mean, you know, because it's funny because as we always hear these stories of like the early England times, you know, Jack, because you know they put in the Jack the Ripper, but they said screw the Jack the Ripper because this is nothing like Jack the Ripper. But you know, it's funny because if you were to pin this over to X-Men, right, and we all know the big bad of that one, the one that we still one that probably never see in TV, aka movies ever in a long time, aka Mr. Sinister himself. Boy, that was a whole nother head case. That was a whole other head case into vampirism. Lord have mercy. So to see them hit this, I'm like, you know, JoJo, you did some decency and respect. You know, you brought in the X-Men version of this shit into real life, but with a slight twist.
But the thing is, let's be real. The JoJo Bizarre Adventure was a very unique franchise of itself. Took about like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was 5 seasons going through multiple generations of JoJo's or I want to say Joestar family line.
I ain't gonna lie now, as you guys
And it would caught me off guard. I thought everyone who would be a protagonist was a male. The last one was a female.
see, I figured
Then let's not forget,
no,
Dio have an offspring that were total opposite of what he was.
I bet.
His offspring was in Italy.
But look, one thing's for sure though, right? I just want to put this out there. As you all can see, in this third strap right here, right from the left of the screen, right here, this guy right here, this third guy right here, in the black hat. This is probably the best JoJo. I would believe is the best JoJo. Keyword, I believe. From the last time I actually watched like JoJo,
from the
this
left,
is the best one.
he was the most brutal with JoJo.
Which one?
The third guy from the left, from where I'm at, the one with the black hat, the gold.
Right, this guy.
He was the most brutal.
Exactly.
He was no joke. Jonathan Joestar was a good fighter. His grandson was a very unique fighter. And followed after that, what this JoJo was very, very brutal. The other one with the funky hairstyle with a gold heart, he was in his diva mode. And we had Dio Offspring, which is the one with the golden hair, was located in Italy. He was adventured, but in a very unique and different way. And the last of the JoJo's was the girl, which is there. But the other two characters, I'm not sure where they come up from because if anyone watched the whole entire franchise of the JoJo Bizarre Adventure, it ended with the girl. But the way it ended with spoiler alert, it looked like it was about to go through another reboot. How it was ended with the choice whereby they were trying to make it seem like we might have to change it up, or they want to be a different type of batch of JoJo's Beloved. I don't know. It raised a lot of questions of the franchise itself. A lot. It did.
I bet it did, because let's be real here. When you talk about a vampire taking over another person's body by inflictingly, generating stuff into the person's body, eventually you start to meet a bunch of crossroads with that problem.
And it came with a few other artifacts. Another artifact that gave people stance-like power. Another weird thing that was like really interesting.
As I said, this is very troublesome.
So this will be part 1 of the recording. We'll soon come back for part 2.
And we'll give you guys the rest of that presentation. Oh my goodness.
So forgive me for Wednesday. We'll come back on next Wednesday. I hope I don't crash out again, but I'm really pissed.
I'll have to call you early before then.
Yeah. On that note,
peace out, ladies and
gentlemen. See you
gents.
later. We'll be back.